So I made my way up to Angkor Wat in the city of Siem Reap. On next week's episode we're going to show you the township itself as well as all the other temple complexes that exist. But to finish off today's episode, let's show you the main complex of Angkor Wat. But don't forget to watch again next week to see the rest, okay? Anyway, let's get going. Okay, so here we are at Angkor Wat. I don't expect to see Angelina Jolie, but we could see some other things here. You'll hear a lot of noise and a lot of screaming in the background. That is not my fans. That is in fact all the hawkers that are all trying to sell you stuff. There is 1,000 people who are going to flog you everything from Angkor Wat sunglasses down to Angelina Jolie dolls with, you know, full body form. So let's go inside Angkor Wat and actually try and get away from the noise and try and get a bit of tranquility and enjoy Angkor Wat, shall we? Let's go. Angkor Wat lies about 5.5 kilometres north of the town of Siem Reap. It's a short distance south and slightly east of what was the previous capital. You start by burning incense and taking off your shoes at the entrance, which is what we did. Okay, so Angkor Wat really has only been available to the public in any big way since the late 80s and early 90s. Of course, there was the civil war between the Khmer and the communists. What happened was when they first opened Angkor Wat, the most famous site here in Cambodia, there were people breaking off bits of it, selling it to overseas people and making whatever money they can. Finally, there's been some stability here since the 90s, so the government secured the location. It'll cost you $20 to get in and you can see all the sites, you know, for a whole day, or pay $40 and see them for 3 days. Angkor Wat was built by Tamil king Suryavaram in the early 12th century as his state temple and capital city. As the best preserved temple at the site, is the only one to have remained a significant religious centre since its foundation. But first it was Hindu, dedicated to the god Vishnu, then became Buddhist. The temple at the top is a high classical style of Khmer architecture. It has been the symbol of Cambodia, appearing on its national flag, and is the country's prime attraction for visitors. So I'm here with my man Brian, and we're here in front of Angkor Wat. We have weapons, we have swords. This is to remind us of the olden days and the horses that we used back then. So we're in front of some of the temples, and you know, we're enjoying ourselves. We're going to see more of the temples as we go around. Okay, so just remember when you come to Angkor Wat that it's actually a site of history and of reverence. It's not just about Angelina Jolie. I can't stand how some of these movies have destroyed these places. Remember in one of my previous episodes we went to Siam to the Terracotta Warriors, and now all people think is the mummy. So when you come here, research, do a bit of background on Wikipedia or somewhere and get some information when you come to the temples, or get yourself a guide. Let's continue our walk around, shall we? No more Angelina Jolie. The temple complex was originally known as Vara Vishnuloka in Sanskrit, named posthumously after its founder. The modern name Angkor Wat uses the vernacular form of the word Nokor, which comes from a Sanskrit word, and Wat meaning temple grounds. The modern name Angkor Wat therefore means city temple. Angkor Wat combines two basic plans of Khmer temple architecture, the Temple Mountain and the later Gallery Temple, based on the South Indian Hindu architecture. It's designed to represent Mount Meru, home of the Devas in Hindu mythology, with a moat and an outer wall of 3.6 kilometres long, with 3 rectangular galleries, each one raised above the last. Well, the temples, as you can see, are an extensive system. They were built over hundreds of years. The whole area here takes up literally, 100 kilometres or more. There's not just the Angkor Wat temple, there's Angkor Thom and a range of other temples that we're going to see today. There's the Ladies Temple and, of course, the one made famous in the movie Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. So let's go inside and check out the main temple inside Angkor Wat before we move on to Angkor Thom, shall we? Let's go. As mentioned earlier, the initial design and construction took place in the first half of the 12th century during the reign of Tamil king Suryavaram II. The temple, as we said, was dedicated to Vishnu, and work seemed to have ended shortly after the king's death, leaving some of the basic decoration unfinished. In 1177, approximately 27 years after the death of the king, Angkor was sacked by the Chams, the traditional enemies of the Khmer. Therefore, the empire was restored by a new king, Jayavarman VII, who established a new capital and state temple at Angkor Thom, which we'll see in next week's episode. One of the unusual things about the temple complex is that it moved from being a Hindu temple complex to a Buddhist one in the 13th century. Angkor Wat is unusual amongst Angkor temples in that it was somewhat neglected after the 16th century and almost abandoned. Its preservation was due to the fact that the moat provided some protection from encroachment by the jungle. One of the first Western visitors to the temple was a Portuguese monk who visited in 1586 and discovered it for the Western world. However, the temple was popularised in the West only in the mid-19th century on the publication of Henri Mouhot's travel notes. The French explorer wrote about it, which created a mystery that people wanted solved, and thus the complex was excavated and discovered in more detail in the 20th century.
So here we are in the area known as the Thousand Buddhas. There's all these writings and inscriptions on the wall dating back to about 1700, which is the period from which the Buddhists have really been managing the place right through to the Khmer Rouge Empire. You can see there's some absolutely intricate carvings here. A lot of them actually depict human beings fighting against apes and monkeys. We're going to get into more of why that is later on. But it's a really intricate mural that runs for a good 100, 200 metres on the walls, everywhere you look. So a lot of artwork and a lot of time and effort has been put in to creating these intricate carvings. So let's check out some of them, shall we?
The temple is a powerful symbol of Cambodia and is a source of great national pride. It has factored significantly in diplomatic relations with neighbouring Thailand, France and the United States. A depiction of Angkor Wat has been part of Cambodian national flag since the 1800s. By the 12th century, Khmer architects had become skilled and confident in the use of sandstone as opposed to brick. Most of the visible areas of the temple complex are sandstone blocks, with laterite used for the outer wall and hidden structural parts. The binding agent used to join the blocks is yet to be identified, although people think it's a natural resin or lime which has been used. That's all we have time for today, but next week on Jason's Journeys, we visit the Angkor Thom complex where the jungle meets the temples. It was even more incredible in my opinion. From there we go and check out the city of Siem Reap by day and by night where it really comes alive. And from there we continue on into Thailand and the capital Bangkok where we see the great royal palace, some of the greatest gold treasures you'll see anywhere in the world. So make sure you join us next week, and remember, the most important thing to pack in your luggage is courage, and make sure you live amongst the local people. This is Jason Ross for Jason's Journeys. I'll see you all next week, everyone. Bye for now.